We've now seen 3 Pando Days premiere presentations this morning, and we have one left, UCLA. In the first Pando Days season from 2019 to 20, Professor Rebecca Mendez from the UCLA Design School brought to us an extraordinary project focused on strengthening biodiversity at the treetop level, a kind of border region between earth and sky, which only the most amazing creatures among us can inhabit, birds. After its premiere, the project picked up funding to allow a prototype to be built. Community partner was found that donated land. The project was built and installed, and now the team is returning to Pando Days with plans for next steps. This is a thrilling project to see, not only for what it is, but for how it has actually been brought to life. Rebecca, we're eager to hear from you and your team about your current Pando Days project that builds on the original vision and aims to scale it throughout the region. Over to you.
Thank you, Eugene, and thank you, Pando. Thank you all for being here with us today. I will begin by maybe introducing our team, introducing ourselves. I am Rebecca Mendez, professor at UCLA Design Media Arts and founder and director of the Counterforce Lab.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alyssa Davis. I'm a graduate student in the Department of Information Studies, and I'm associate director of Counterforce Lab.
Hi, I'm Stamatis Hamuzas. I'm a graduate student at the Design Media Arts Department at UCLA and a member of Counterforce Lab.
Hello all. My name is Chuyu Liu. I'm an undergraduate researcher in the Department of Design Media Arts and also Architecture.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jenna Cameron, and I'm an undergraduate student in the Departments of Political Science and Gender Studies.
So we're excited to share with you our 2023 Pando Days presentation, which is phase 2 of the Biophilia Treehouse. This is an overview of what we will discuss during today's presentation. But first, we want to let you know who we are. Counterforce Lab is a student-led research studio that harnesses the power of art and design to engage with the reality of the global ecological crisis and its ties to environmental injustice. Counterforce Lab is a collection of artists, designers, scientists, and thinkers working in transdisciplinary collaboration with community partners to engage in art making, grounded in storytelling and place-based artistic fieldwork practices.
In 2019, Counterforce Lab was fortunate enough to be invited by Pando Days to respond to LA County's sustainability goal number 5, thriving ecosystems, habitats, and biodiversity. Our answer was the Biophilia Treehouse. The Biophilia Treehouse is a public arts initiative to grow a series of living sculptures housing native trees and plants that together constitute a complete ecosystem for birds and plants. When built in sequence, a series of Biophilia treehouses form an avian wildlife corridor that reconnect fractured habitat, especially in dense urban areas where environmental inequities abound. As you can see from this satellite image, the natural world in LA is under serious threat. This is largely due to how rapid urbanization in the 20th century completely ignored the living landscape. And here you can see just how broken our green spaces are, resulting in grave environmental injustices.
It's our philosophy that healthy ecologies result in healthy communities. This framework is called One Health, asserting that the health of humans, non-humans, and the environment are intricately connected and codependent. With One Health as a framework, Biophilia Treehouse engages ecological restoration in LA County as well as arts and science education. Issues of environmental justice permeate through all 3 of these dynamics as well. Using what we learned from the construction of our prototype that was built earlier this year with our community partners, the Sisters of Social Service, our Pando Days 2023 project is focused on phase 2, which is the installation of a series of Biophilia treehouses along the southern portion of the LA River corridor.
To provide some context for how we arrived at the Biophilia Treehouse, let's start with birds. This project began with my profound love of birds. We had to know the state of birds in Los Angeles and why they are so important. LA County is a global biodiversity hotspot. It is home to the largest set of threatened and endangered plants and animals in the continental United States. Among this species richness, LA County is also the birdiest county in the United States. 527 bird species are recorded in the county, including 305 species in the built environment.
What's also true is that urbanization in Los Angeles is a major threat to the region's biodiversity as it breaks apart and shrinks suitable habitat, separating populations from each other and creating a strong change in habitat conditions most native organisms do not adjust to. How Los Angeles developed also separated people from their local ecosystems, often disproportionately among communities of color due to systemic racism in city planning and environmentalism. And studies show that interacting with wildlife, and specifically birdwatching, help mental health, environmental stewardship, and connection to the natural world.
So why did Counterforce choose to partner with birds? Bird diversity and the prevalence of certain bird species are indicators of good environmental health and habitat quality. These birds are often dependent on specific environmental conditions, particularly associations with certain native plants, which foster an ecology they have evolved with and are dependent on. By creating an environment where these birds' needs are met, we can ensure we are fostering a complete and healthy ecosystem in response to the destructive effects of 20th century urbanization. When building the Biophilia Treehouse prototype, we focused on local sensitive species found in large restored park in the same general area as the site. We determined plant species and design based on their ecological needs. And these are the beautiful birds we selected for the location of our prototype.
We next determined our native plant selection to foster an abundant ecosystem specifically tailored for these bird species. With our ornithology expert, we chose plants that meet the needs of all of the birds, from nesting to foraging and to perching. These would also include plants that foster a healthy insect community as well. Our native trees are elderberry, oak, laurel sumac, and toyon. Our native shrubs are black sage, bush sunflower, California buckwheat, and California sagebrush. Our native ground cover species are June grass, woodland strawberry, and California mallet grass. And lastly, our natural vines are wild cucumber, Pacific blackberry, and hairy honeysuckle. As you can see, after some months now, the plants are thriving, having found the structure of the tree to support their growth. The vines are growing up along the bamboo and rebarb just as they would a tree's branch.
So we'll now briefly walk through our design methodology. In designing the Biophilia Treehouse, instead of this hierarchical human-centric approach, we engaged the bird as our client, entering into a reciprocal model that is informed by bird behavior. All the treehouses share a kit of essential parts. These parts are then uniquely adapted according to the treehouse's location and the specific needs of the threatened birds at the site. We can speak more specifically to the design in the Q&A section, but here you can see the details of various sections that comprises each treehouse. We want to highlight that we included an elevated garden platform to attract ground foragers at a height that allows for people to observe without disturbing the birds. Additionally, nest cavities are individually designed considering cavity nesters' preferences and ecology. We also built modular cubbies and ledges to provide alternative nesting sites for birds that like nesting cliffsides or crevices. And collectively, these will be accessible and movable so that we can learn from the birds' preferences, shift them as needed, collect data on the birds themselves, and sanitize and manage them over time. And finally, these are some design refinements we plan to adopt when constructing future tree houses. We'll look into a different support structure that offers more soil breathability and weight-bearing capabilities. We'll also switch from using bamboo to using akoya wood because it is more durable and weather-resistant than bamboo. And as you can see from this bird's eye view, biophilia treehouse are an open offering to the birds soaring above in search of food and nesting cavities.
We will now present an overview of the ethnography research we conducted. I sought out an ethnographic arts team to support the development of a narrative that reflects the stories of the land. This is inspired by the work of Anishinaabe scientist and professor Robin Wall Kimmerer and her observation of the power of storytelling to meaningfully proceed with healing, with restoration, and with what is referred to as restoriation, a concept put forth by ethnobotanist scholar Gary Naban and Kimmerer. This research included workshops, oral histories, and co-creating insignia. The picture you see here was drawn by one of the sisters during their value mapping workshop to show her relationship with the land at the retreat center. Throughout this work, our expert, trained in anthropology and performance studies, emphasized an ethos informed by critical ethnography, a methodological approach that draws on feminist, post-colonial, and decolonial theories and practices. The goal was to analyze and counter asymmetrical power relations based on aspects such as race, gender, and geography. These are some images from our workshop with the Sisters of Social Service at their retreat center in Encino. Through this workshop, we arrived at central themes that related to both our work and the sisters, as well as aligned with decolonial methods. And some of our overlapping focuses are on storytelling, sacred space, stewardship, and hospitality. Additionally, at the center, you see that our approach is to recenter a native view of land. Kuyam, the Tongva word for guest, is offered as a decolonial possibility based on culture and tradition in which settler relations to land can be reformed and settler colonialism can eventually be abolished. The core of each biophilia treehouse is to enter into long-term relationships of reciprocity with the native peoples of the land and understand and support their needs. At the site of our prototype in Encino, our team engaged in post-colonial and decolonial analysis of native Tataviam and Tongva histories and their ongoing presence.
These workshops led to the co-creation of insignia as part of the placemaking process. The insignia are first and foremost created to honor the local indigenous histories of the land. But we also wanted to capture the more complicated history as well. So that's why our fieldwork and research focused on 4 intersecting and at times conflicting groups. They were the traditional keepers of the land, the settlers of the land, our community partners, the Sisters of Social Service, and the indicator bird species specific to the site. And so as an example of the methodology we used, we conducted research and then searched for visual references that helped us to design the symbols. So you can see the progression of the work in the following slides for each group that we looked at. So this example is for the Chumash, for whom pictograms were vital for depicting their surrounding environment. One of the symbols we used for our insignia directly references the Chumash representation of the sun. We also created symbols that address the reality of the location's settler history. So that is why we decided to incorporate the lasso for this portion. And then for the sisters, it was really vital for their faith to be reflected in the tree. And so that's how we came to co-design the dove, which is a symbol of the Holy Spirit. And then we also wanted to show the abundance of our indicator species. So And we wanted to show how that changed over the year. So we translated our data visualization into a bar graph insignia that you can see on the right-hand side here on this slide. And this expresses the times of year a certain bird species is more prevalent in the area. An up-close view of this can show you a little bit more detail here. So you can see that the initials of each month run up the right-hand side of the design, January, February, March, and then the dots that extend outward demonstrate the abundance levels of the bird species within that given month. And then finally, we had the chance to draw our beautiful birds themselves. So we have the oak titmouse, the song sparrow, and the western bluebird represented here. And all of these insignia are made from pyrographic dots, which are burned directly into the bamboo poles. And this is what the final project looks like. You can see our spotted towhee and its abundance levels to the left of its name.
On the following slides, we have some photos of the prototype's construction and installation process. Here you can see the initial construction of the biophilia treehouse with all of the kit's parts. Here we have students pyrographing the symbols that we designed onto the bamboo structure of the biophilia treehouse. Here's a photo of the installation of the biophilia treehouse on the site at the Sisters of Social Service. And here is a bird's eye view of the installation of the treehouse.
So now we'll shift gears to our vision of phase 2 of this project, building a whole network of treehouses along the LA River corridor. Why are wildlife corridors so important? Urbanization fractures habitat connectivity across LA County by separating and distancing bird habitats themselves, which makes it harder for individual birds to avoid interbreeding or even have the range they need to survive and thrive. Together, habitat loss and fragmentation leads to population decline and collapse. When built in locational sequence, a series of biophilia treehouses form stepping stones, a type of wildlife corridor to reconnect fractured habitats, particularly for our avian friends who can fly between them. And as well, forming wildlife corridors also intersects with environmental injustice. The areas in LA that are in need of connectivity are also areas of underserved communities who have experienced a history of environmental injustice and inequities in access to park space in the natural world. You can see the inequities here where the deep pockets of green on the map map to the most affluent neighborhoods in Los Angeles. To improve green space connection, Los Angeles Sanitation and Environment identified 6 areas in need of wildlife corridors in LA County. And we decided to focus on corridor number 6, which stretches the length of the LA River all the way from Canoga Park to Long Beach, with particular attention paid to southern LA. It's no surprise that the LA River is emblematic of ecological devastation and habitat fracture. Where there was once a thriving natural ecosystem is now concrete and wastewater. The industrial district of the river begins roughly in downtown and flows out to the Pacific, which is why the southern portion is so especially urgent for birds and humans alike. Additionally, the southern portion also runs primarily through communities of color, separating neighborhoods in South Central, such as Downey, Linwood, Compton, Carson, and Long Beach.
Each treehouse will be localized to place and provide stepping stones across the city. Together, they will foster habitat connectivity while responding to historical environmental injustice across Los Angeles. We'll be using the same ethnographic methods we initiated with the sisters and to co-create each treehouse to center the community's values and stories, while also providing a space for ecological education. And education at each treehouse is a large component of this project because we believe arts and science instruction centered on ecology is vital for young children. It's through hands-on experience with the natural world that children will come to love, value, and protect it for the future. And we aim to place treehouses at elementary schools and educational organizations, as well as public libraries, parks, and youth probation centers along the southern LA River in partnership with these communities who experience inequities to park access.
In addition to our educational and ecological vision, we have some other projects planned around Biophilia Treehouse. In early 2024, we'll be self-publishing a book of writing and research that entails our journey with the project from inception to today. Students are currently working on design and content of the publication, as you can see from these mood boards pictured here.
And then another exciting opportunity for next year is an exhibition we have detailing the creation and implementation of the Biophilia Treehouse at the Sisters of Social Service. This exhibition was on display at UCLA's Design and Media Arts Department this past spring, and we will now hope to bring it to the site of the prototype for the public to view. At the Biophilia Treehouse exhibition, tables were laid out with all of our research, and we also had artwork created by our students. Here you can see a time lapse that we created with a video playing in the background. And these are some photos of the opening of the exhibit.
And finally, we want to share some photos from the celebration of the prototype early this spring. The sisters and community members joined us. It was such a beautiful event. It was joyous, and it was just, what a celebration. If more of us can come to truly fathom the truth of our interconnectedness within the ecosystems we inhabit, we believe that a fundamental shift in how we design our built environment shall happen. Hope is a thing with feathers. This beautiful poem has been just our inspiration throughout our whole journey. And I want to thank our team, thank our community partners for their support. Thank to our community and municipal partners who have embraced our project and advocated for it at the city and the county level. And I want to thank you all for listening. We are looking forward to your questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation to you, Rebecca, and to the team. We have 3 respondents to this project. 2 of the respondents joined us for the previous presentations this morning, Kai Zhang and Carlos Lopez, both engineers and both from Burrow Happold, the firm that drafted the LA County Sustainability Plan. Joining them for this presentation as a respondent is Claire Robinson, an architect by training, former architecture professor at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, and founder of Amigos de los Rios that's helping to green LA County. Claire, as you're newly with us this morning, let's start with you. We only have 10 minutes for Q&A. But you probably have some specific questions, and then we'll bring in Kai and Carlos.
Great. Well, thank you so much. You've made my week. This is an astonishing, thoughtful, multi-layered project, and it's so inspiring. Our nonprofit has been working, this is our 20-year anniversary of trying to bring life back to the tale of 2 rivers, the LA River and the San Gabriel River, throughout LA County, and having a landscape scale vision for our whole county. So seeing the areas of the lower LA River that are so bereft of nature and all the impacts that has on public health and mental health and environmental justice, I'm so heartened by this. And I guess to just get right to the nitty gritty, roll up our sleeves, 2 issues sort of came out for me. One was with the permitting along the rivers, it's sometimes taken us a decade to just get permits with the complexity of the Army Corps and public works bureaucracy, even to plant trees. So I think I understood, but I'm not positive. You're not putting these right on the river corridor, you're putting them adjacent, so they're stewarded by probation, elementary school. Okay, so that's wonderful. That's smart. Yay, okay. And the other question I had was, I know this sounds a little silly, but flammability. Like, we are having a lot of issues in our installations and work, even with tree stakes, that a lot of folks, that there are fires up and down the river corridor, and with increased heat days and other issues, is there, maybe because they're stewarded and they're in a place that's, being cared for, that isn't such an issue? But have you thought of that at all?
Yes, one of the things that we knew to kind of address would be the maintenance, right? And that's why it's such an important thing for the biophilia treehouses to have that stewardship from the primary schools and all of these other places. Because of that, I think that we would be able to continue with wood. Ideally, we would use that, not the bamboos, but the akoya, which is even much long-lasting material. It's an interesting kind of techno wood in which it's treated, but it is also very healthy for the birds and insects and all. We, of course, in cases where it needs to be placed in a place that we would feel that it's a little more dangerous, one of course can use PVC, but why, we don't want to go there. The reality is that this ends up being something that feels that it begins to be connected with the plant. So being landscape in more of a library or detention center, then we know that there will be irrigation, there will be care, there'll be maintenance. So we feel that it is more kind of like a place where, as a garden, you would tend to and trim appropriately and really maintain. For example, at the Sisters, we definitely are going often to make sure that the plants are healthy, that they are in a good place. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, just to be realistic, because we put our heart out on the river, and watch what happens. There's a lot of folks who are unhoused who need to be supported in various ways, befriended, connected, and even have them connect with the birds as well. And the third question, we've been starting to do more and more. We're working with Hearts for Sight, which is a group for visually impaired, incredibly UCLA graduate, incredibly supportive for people who are progressively losing sight or have already lost it, and really advocating for universal signage. So with your pyro, with the work that you're doing, it just occurred to me it would be so beautiful if you could also do Braille or some tactile, like with the insignias that you made, they would lend themselves beautifully to a tactile sign. And we'd really like to invite you to help us make this inclusionary signage the moniker of the river corridors in general, so that people with visually impaired heightened sense of sound and being able to listen to the birds, maybe go to the Cornell Bird Laboratory and get those sounds and incorporate them, so one can isolate them and start to become more familiar with each of those beautiful characters that are your clients. So that would be, I just love what you're doing. I can't express enough how beautiful I think it is on so many levels, and would just love to see the universal tactile signage, Braille signage included.
Yeah, I love that, Claire. I think that could be wonderful. Yeah, thank you. We will for sure. Yeah.
I am so excited. Can't wait.
Thank you.
Kai, do you have a final question here?
Yes, I really like the design. It's so elegant. You mentioned that it's a flexible one. What sort of adaptations do you think would need to be made as you continue up and place in different sites?
Adaptations can be made. One of the things is that scale can shift, right? Sometimes we call the biophilia bushes when it gets a little bit smaller, right? So I think that scale can vary. In primary schools, when we were in communication with the elementary school Esperanza, the director mentioned that, benches for them to have picnics would be really nice to have on the bottom part. So the bottom area is all around. In this case, for the Sisters, it was meditating benches, but for the kids would have been maybe tables that would be around there. So I think that the area that is at human level can be adapted to whatever the needs of the community partner that we would have. With regards to, for example, I know that sometimes we even thought, well, wouldn't this be interesting to be at a scale in which we can actually have it really straight on the sidewalks? So it could be done in pots. So we have modeled what we were calling ecosari. We developed a whole series of these ones for Finland, for a city in Ilahti. And so there are ways of adapting. What's interesting about the concept is that because we like the idea that this is a kit of parts that is adaptable, then it is in communication with our community partners that we would arrive at the at the specific stat of their needs.
Carlos, we have about 30 seconds. Do you have a quick question here?
Yeah, the quick question I can get out is I see that the bamboo is two different lengths. I assume some parts are higher, some parts are lower. What analysis due to sun casting, wind, prevailing winds were taken into consideration when coming up with the design?
The design was informed by bird behavior. So it was all about what the birds needed. So for example, when you see all the cavities, the bird cavities, they're all aligned to the specific bird. Let's say that the bluebirds, the holes need to be facing east. And so all of those considerations about patterning of the weather, of sun and all of that had to do with bird needs. The reality of, how the rest of the weather and the sun works is just the way that it would work in the natural world, because we are responding to the indicator species, the birds. So it was one of those things that we said, the birds are our client. Tell us what you need. And so working with ornithologists and with botanists was pretty essential here. And then we were more adapting to what they would need. So one of the things that is key for us is this idea of observation and learning and doing the citizen science to learn much more. What do the birds want and how do we adapt the design? So it's for the first time that we decenter the humans as the writers for the design, and we are more listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Rebecca, and your team for drawing our eyes up from always being on the ground, where mine typically are, to look at the regions where the birds fly. It's a wonderful, inspirational project. At this point in the premier schedule, we've seen, wait for it, 14 out of 16 projects developed for the 2023 Pando Days season. We have only 2 left to go, but what an amazing 2 they are. Join us Monday at noon for Art Center College of Design for their second of 2 projects, this one coming from the transportation program. And then finally, next Thursday, you won't want to miss Cal State LA at 10:30. Thanks so much once again to our respondents from Burl Happold and Claire Robinson for sharing your expertise over this morning. It was great to have you all here. Thank you to all the Pando Days colleges and universities that have dedicated full courses, studios, or labs to help LA County meet its sustainability goals. Pando Days was conceived in collaboration with LA's Chief Sustainability Officer Task Force and is in partnership with the county's Chief Sustainability Office. Pando Days is made possible by the support of our sponsors and by generous contributions from individuals across the Southland and beyond. Thank you for joining with us. Enjoy your day, and as we say around here, Pando on. Thank you.